All right. Thinking we're live. I'm hoping we're live. Last time we had a bit of a snafu. I
Yeah,
should
a little
probably
bit.
check and see and
I
make
see the
sure that
background this time around, so it looks good.
okay. Well, you said you saw it the right time on your side last time,
True.
but
True.
our people didn't. So let me just go look and see here. Oh, okay. Yep. All right. We're good. We're good.
Oh,
I can hear it. I checked it. All right. Hopefully next time I don't have to check, but that was weird last time how it did that. So I was like,
yep.
check anyway.
5 minutes
All
worth
right.
of
Yeah.
introductions and nothing.
Yes, 5 minutes. It was a good intro. I really had like a sketch built up. It was awesome, and it didn't work out. But anyway, guys, we are back tonight on a Wednesday night. Everyone, welcome back, Dylan. Second time on the channel, second time on the stream, and told you guys going to be checking these out all season long. So we're excited to get back into it, and we're gonna jump right into it because tonight was an hour and a half episode. I wasn't expecting that.
Yep.
I don't. Is that this new season norm? And I just missed the memo.
I feel like that's gonna be it because 2 hour premiere, cut it back
I
a little
hope
bit,
so.
hour and
I
a
hope
half, but
so.
it was a very jam-packed filled episode. So
Yes, it was. Well, see, because I've been preaching like all during Big Brother season. I've been preaching that since there's 3 episodes. I'm like Thursday needs to be. I've been saying it for years and years. Each episode's only an hour. I'm like Thursday needs to be 2 hours. And along the line, I've been saying the same thing about Survivor because just like a few years ago, Probst actually tweeted out, "Hey, I've been talking with execs and the network, and I'm not saying that it's happening, but." There's been talks about at least trying to get a 2 hour episode, kind of like how The Bachelor did it. And a couple of, I think ABC is really heavy with their live, or not their live, but their like competition style shows being 2 hours long. And CBS is not. So he was kind of like basically kind of competing with those other networks. Like, are you guys interested? And it was a resounding yes. And I'm like, we need more time to cover the strategy and all that stuff. An hour and a half, I think, is actually great. I'm willing to concede to an hour and a half. I think we still got way more than we did. I had a little bit of a complaint, not the one that I mentioned, just like a minor one about post competition, but we'll get into that, or challenge. We'll get into that later. It's not really a big one, but it was an editing choice that they made that they had the ability to. Well, I guess a couple of them. Well, one of them we already talked about, but they had the ability to because of the extra time. And I just think, even though I didn't like the things they did, they had the extra time to do it, and it didn't feel like we were necessarily losing anything from what we normally get. What do you think?
No, I like that we're able to deep dive into the people a little bit more. It feels like this season more than any, I get to know each individual character a lot more than I did before. It's more storytelling as opposed to just physically, hey, here's the gameplay of the entire show, which that's the part of the show that I really like, is more the gameplay. But getting to know the players, you get to understand the gameplay that they're running because of who they are as a person. Yep. So I very much, if they keep the hour and a half format, I would love it. I wish that they would move on with a couple of the stories, because it feels like I've heard Jesse's story like 3 or 4 times, and Cody's story is I love because they keep doing something new. Later on, there's a picture of him that I put as my new life goal. I have a new life goal every single week, but this is definitely going to be up there on my list. But yeah, no, if we want to get into the episode, it was a great episode. Absolutely.
Yep. I enjoyed it. And Crazy Mad says, hey, Crazy Mad, thanks for stopping by. Crazy Mad, remember, he's the one, he's just kind of supporting us here. He says he's not the biggest modern day Survivor fan. He keeps trying to get me on that other one. What was it, Alone? Am I going to have to watch Survivor now? You should. I would say you should, but that's just
Alone. I actually had this conversation with my wife because we have watched Alone, and I found out the premise of it, and it's good enough to be its own thing, but there's no strategy to the game. It's just surviving.
Yeah. So yeah. And that, for me, that's the only reason that I'm like, my biggest thing is the strategy. Originally when I first created the channel, like part of the bio, I think it's still in the bio, and I need to edit it because it's not entirely representative of everything that I'm trying to do, but it still kind of sums it up most. Is I really like covering these social strategy games. A big one is it's actually not a major network, but it's on Netflix. I don't know if you've ever watched or heard of The Circle. but it's kind of like Big Brother with social media.
Yeah, no,
And
I'm all through all 4 seasons. It's
are
a
you
very
really? Okay.
it's a
I
very
got to
good
catch up on season 4. Okay.
it's a very good game. It's very similar, but it's without physically talking to them. That's the only
Yes.
part I don't care for, but it's very similar in
Yeah.
the voting aspect and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So that's another one that I plan on whenever season 5 drops of covering. And sounds like you're just as interested. So we'll get you
We
on for
might
that
be
one.
doing a co-op for that one as
There we
well.
go. There we go.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, I love these social strategy games, and I like the premise of like Alone and stuff. Like I used to watch Survivor Man growing up. I enjoy all that. I just don't know that it's enough for us to kind of cover on
Yeah.
one of this. But I've been saying I'll check it out, so I'll definitely give it a shot here soon. But all right, so we're gonna jump into tonight's episode, and we come back from Tribal, and Baka. Initially, I just had like yellow, red, blue. I just had to refresh
Yep.
myself over tribe
Yep.
names. So I went back
Coco.
and fixed those.
Coco.
Yeah, Coco. Once they said it, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got Owen's reaction from Tribal because we saw last Tribal was crazy, and he basically, to sum up what he said, is he got nervous and so it spooked him, and he kind of was trying to scramble, and he realized kind of in the moment, but especially on the way back, that that didn't come off as great. But he's saying now he still feels really solid with the people in his tribe thus far, and he's really he's feeling a lot more secure now than he was about an hour beforehand. I don't know what really changed in that quick, but I think it's more just kind of reactionary than anything. But he says he's feeling better now. So that's good.
Tribal council changes you. Like tribal council is where, like, we saw last week where I forget her name, but she ended up going home thinking that she was going to, everybody thinks that they're going to make it through, but we finally saw a little bit of weakness from Owen, which I really like. I was very I mean, I was the one who picked him to win. You also did as well. But I'm starting to see these cracks in his game that I feel like he's going to be a little bit more manic of a player as opposed to a more cerebral player. More. And as I started doing the math on, how everybody voted and whatnot, I got really nervous for him coming back from Tribal. So immediately I felt the impact of what Owen was saying.
Yeah, I definitely felt the nerves for him last Wednesday. I was like, oh, it's not quite as smooth. He's still definitely in rocky waters. And you're right. I mean, he definitely is kind of more manic, but I think also too, I appreciate whenever we can get our players' weaknesses early, especially the ones that we have a strong opinion of, because the longer it goes on, and we feel really solid, like, oh, this player's doing great, the very first sign of weakness, we're like, oh, whoa, this guy's not doing as good. So when we get that early, it becomes more of like character development, kind of like with Tony back then. Tony's one of your favorite players. And he was very manic. Had they only waited to show us that till later on, we would have thought, oh, this dude doesn't know what he's doing. But we got to see it early on, and we got to see how that affected his gameplay, how that affected his decisions. And it made him look better because now we see that he's aware of that and he's kind of channeling that into something. Same thing with Owen. He was aware of his kind of sporadicness, and he was like, I try and hide it. I'm trying to hide. I didn't catch the reference he made, but he's like, I'm trying to hide it. And I may not be doing the best at that, but at least I recognize it. So he definitely is he's definitely at least is aware of it. And that's a lot more than we can say about many other players in the past.
Yep.
So,
for sure.
But I noticed something else. So we come back from that, and there's a storm, and we haven't gotten like a really good like Survivor storm in a long time, like a really good one. I'm trying to remember what season it was. It was not Russell Hance, but the other Russell, the one that passed out in the competition.
Yeah.
I believe Samoa. It was his season. Samoa.
Well, that was actually both Russells. I think. Oh, he came back after he was injured.
Yeah.
And there was another one where they physically evacuated the island.
Yes.
Okay, that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So the one where that was his first, because he actually came back from the injury. because we had
What?
him and then so or not the same season. The point of his second season was Malcolm's first season. And it was when they were kind of doing like one of those like slight twists where they ran out of ideas. And so they're like, let's just kind of do this. And so they had like, I think it was 2, maybe 3 players that had gotten injured and they brought them back. One of them we won't discuss.
Yep.
One of them is not to be named.
Yeah. No, I know exactly who you're talking about. I remember that. Yeah.
But anyway, so we saw that season. That was horrible storm. And we've seen some that had their moments, but none that have been like that intense. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, man, like it sucks for the players, but it'd be really nice to see. And that kind of goes back to like another thing. I'm over Fiji personally. I know probes love it. I know a lot of people love it. My favorite is the Philippines. What? Yeah, the Philippines are my favorite.
Okay.
And I'd be lying if I said I remembered what season or what island Redemption Island was on. Do you happen to remember that? No. Okay.
No.
That was another one that I liked a lot. It might have been Samoa. I don't know.
I think the one you're thinking of is it's not Cagayan.
It's not Cagayan.
Not Cagayan.
It's not Cagayan.
Yeah, no.
But anyway,
out my head. The one thing that you do see though is the toll it's taking on them because Gabler, I could definitely tell. I mean, it was the first sign of weakness that I've seen, and obviously he's a much older of a player. But when you start seeing that, you start seeing the tribe turn on him a little bit more. Yeah. You start seeing the tribe, oh, well, watch out for him. And I don't know if you actually saw this. This was something that I've never seen in Survivor. So this was like my Survivor first. They brought the big spoon from the well and brought it to camp, and they were actually fishing it out of the fire. They brought the well spoon, the one that goes like, never seen that before. And I got so excited.
I did miss that. I didn't quite catch it.
That because I was like, I've never seen someone bring that spoon out of the well. Yeah. And so they were using it as a tool and whatnot. And you saw Owen when he went back to the water well.
Yeah, I saw him kind of mess with. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like picking stuff off of it.
Yeah.
Brought it out of the well and physically. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, you're not the only one that noticed Gabler's decline, because as you mentioned, the rest of the tribe really picked up on it pretty quickly, and they're like, he says he's doing good, and it's not that we don't like him, but he's really going to be a detriment if he's in this condition. And spoiler alert, a little bit of foreshadowing, but it's not the second or the only time it comes up, and we see it kind of how it does have his effect in the challenge, and we'll get to that. But Sammy, I noticed Sammy said that whenever it rains, normally he just waits at the gas station and waits for his mom, and he can't do that here.
Yep, he can't do that.
He can't do that.
Can't do that.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. Real quick, Crazy in chat says, does Dylan do BB? Dylan doesn't do BB. I tried getting him to watch one episode, and Paramount Plus. One of these days I will get him. I won't get him that. We don't do password sharing.
Right.
We don't do that. We don't do that. Yeah, but we might have to come up with one for the business. So, we'll see about that. Anyway, I don't know about the legalities of all that or whatever. Anyway, Marine says the challenges are brutal this season. Yeah, the challenges are, and that's another thing we'll get to later, but I was very impressed with the challenge. I thought it was really well done.
It's a classic. It's a classic challenge.
So, but we'll come back to that. So we get to visit Vesey, and Jesse is at their tribe, and he basically says that they're all doing good, but they can see alliances are forming, and he can kind of see everyone around him, and he's trying to pull Dwight in because he thinks Dwight's going to be a good ally for him. But he's also kind of sees that he still really likes the girls, and he knows that this is going to be a challenge. He sees Jesse's on the outs. He's on the outside of that, but Jesse's still really attached to that, and he wants to try and pull him in. And so we're going to see a little bit of work going on with that.
There was a lot of really good gameplay that was being played here. Very much, Dwight was very much in tune with what was going on because he saw the girls splitting off. He saw Cody and NECA splitting off. So he was like, oh, crap, I need somebody. And you need to be able to sway that. So you need to go find your partner so you're able to make a big power move. But unfortunately, he didn't have his vote for the next coming up. So he had to find somebody. He physically had to find somebody to pair up with. And so Jesse really held all the cards with Dwight and him. But honestly, like that pairing did make a lot of sense from the strategic side of the game.
Yep. And again, not to spoil later on, but we do kind of see how that potentially plays out later on in the episode with some decisions that may or may not have been made, that he may or may not have gotten his say in ultimately. We see that Cody's going to jump off the rocks. Jesse's talking about Cody. Jesse's really giving us a rundown of everyone on the tribe, and I didn't catch all of it, but I caught some of it. He says that Cody, everyone kind of was a little bit wary of him at first, but now that they see that's just his personality. He's not as crazy as he seems. He's just more carefree, and he's just living life, and his motto is having fun. We all saw his motto, saw it loud.
Livin.
Yes, living. So he's not afraid to show it, and we get some more insight. And I might be jumping ahead. I think I am. Was it before or after? Yeah, it was around this time where we see Cody kind of talking about how he had a friend when he was younger who got cancer, lost his leg, and died. And he was like, I saw him go through heck and back, and now he he's not here anymore. And it just made me see that life really is short. And he said, I loved his what he said. He basically said, I want to make sure I go to bed every day saying I did something that was fun or something like that. I'm like, that is a great motto. I think I did. I jumped ahead. Oh, I'm mixing. No, sorry. We came back to Cody. That's why I was getting confused. A little bit ahead, but still pretty much wrapped up.
This is where my new goal of the naked picture on a mountain. That is my new goal. I have. That's my second goal of the season.
I thought of that too, and then I said, he probably looks a lot better than I would, even at his age.
For both of us, but still, it's still a goal.
Yeah, you can. That's a goal. Just make sure that there's no one. Make sure there's no one down there. At the bottom of the hill, because that might not be too pleasant. But anyway, but yeah, Jesse. He's talking about how he loves Cody. That's not something that I've ever heard in real life is Jesse loving Cody, but in Survivor, it is. It's a little bit of something else there. But
anyway, segues. Lindsay, I did notice this down that they cut to Coco, okay, and Lindsay only got. I really focus on the amount of interviews that they gave. And Lindsay only had one interview this entire
episode. That's a strong counter. Because that's something that is heavily picked up on Big Brother too. Is it definitely? I mean, now with Survivor, there's the advantage of they already know the outcome. They already know who the winner is. So the journal sessions really count. And they do try and throw you off, but it still definitely gives you insight.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I kind of focused in on was like Lindsay, I pegged her as a game player and she only got one confessional this time around. I was like, oh snap. Like last episode, she got like 15 of those suckers. And so I'm getting a little nervous for her. And then also on this like pre-challenge notes, everybody started not liking Justine a little bit on Baca. Yeah, Baca. Everybody started, noticing a few cracks and a few like, hey, like this person's probably not telling me the truth about something.
Yeah. And, I really noticed that it was Jesse picking up on that. Now, I didn't catch if anyone else had yet, but we definitely see that, post, we'll see that later on about some of those cracks. But definitely, I mean, right off the bat, they're saying Justine's not doing herself any favors right now. And we definitely get some insight into that. So we go to Coco and we see that is it Carla? Is that her name?
Carla, yeah. Carla's the
Carla.
Hispanic lady.
Yes. Carla, she mentions how everyone in the tribe is really tight except for Gio and Ryan. They're kind of on the outs.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of doing their own thing. And they also kind of were hoping that she was with them as well.
Yep.
Now, we found that out last week. Now, once we kind of get in with Kyle and Gio, Carla is in there, Gio
Yeah,
and Ryan. Once we see them together, I don't know if I missed it, but I don't recall them even addressing Carla at all in their conversations about them being really tight, because they mention how, Ryan says he thinks they are a really good duo. He really likes the chemistry they have. They seem to be on the same page on a lot of stuff, and they've really formed a tight bond already. I didn't catch them even mentioning anything about Carla. So I don't know if maybe she's, we're just not seeing stuff, which is entirely possible, or if she's just kind of overestimating her position and her likeness level in there. It's kind of a confusing edit from that perspective. Normally in these types of scenarios, we would get production kind of probing some type of response out of them, like, oh yeah, Carla's great, but I don't really see, her being a good fit. And there wasn't really any response to it. So it really could go either way. But right now, she thinks everyone else is tight. And they too kind of realize that they're on their own as well. So that aspect is definitely there. But I didn't see them having that longing to bring her in, but it definitely could be there.
I do want to mention this because that whole tribe, that's the one that's the female alliance.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one and then they also have James. And so it would be really stupid from a gameplay aspect for Carla to go for a 3-3 split as opposed to going with the numbers and having 4-2. Mm-hmm. So from just a gameplay, my bold prediction is that in the event that they end up losing the immunity challenge coming up here, that she would probably stick with the 4 as opposed to going with the 3. The 3.
I think so, for sure. And you never know. I mean, the way I always see it is every time a new tribe, with certain limitations, once you get like really close, because we've seen some where a tribe doesn't go to the first tribal until like the
close to the merge.
Yeah. But that's pretty rare that it gets that far. Normally, whenever we see a tribe go to tribal for the first time, as long as it's within the first few weeks, it really kind of sets anew. Like they're all in this kumbaya stage until they get to that point, and then they're kind of realize, well, there are some cracks here. So, we definitely, if we do get to that point, we'll definitely kind of see where those relationships lie. I do think you're right. I think it's a lot more likely that she sticks with the others, but anything could happen at that point. And, it really, it's hard to tell until they actually get to tribal. But I definitely agree with you there. And then I think this is where we kind of go back to hearing Cody talking about his philosophy on life. And he kind of has a nice moment with Noel, because he's like, I'm genuinely curious about your leg, because my friend, and after you hear his story, because he says, my friend had that same thing happen and I don't know more about it. You get more insight into that, because not only is it just, oh, I have a friend who has this condition as you and I can connect with you on it. He's like, no, I have this friend who had this happen and he wasn't here very long, and I want to learn more about what he went through that I wasn't able to know. Beautiful moment right there, where he's just kind of able to reconnect with some of that stuff with his past. And I don't know how receptive she was to it, and that's understandable. If you're in that type of position, even in real life, you don't know if someone's just saying that, or if just to be nice, or if they really are curious. But definitely was a beautiful moment that we were able to see, because initially I'm kind of like, why are we getting like her amputation from his perspective? But then we started getting back into it as to why it was important. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is really insane. And it's really kind of cool, kind of shows why he is the way he is. I thought it was nice too that we got to see a picture of his friend. Don't normally get that. That was really cool.
Get that. I was about to mention that. Like, that was really cool, because a lot of times I feel like whenever they bring up these stories, they're just kind of saying them out loud, and I don't necessarily always trust the player. Yeah. Like, they're trying to, get a sympathy vote. They're planning their next stage of their career after Survivor, and they're trying to get that sweetheart award. And this one, because of all of that, like, I think America connects with Cody on that level. If he stays, which I hope he does, through the merge and into the later part of the game, I bet you he's the one that ends up winning the what do they call it in Big Brother? America's Choice or the
America's
MVP
favorite player. The
Yeah,
Survivor alternative is a Sia award, which apparently last
right.
season someone was awarded and they didn't announce it, which is fine, I guess, because I think it didn't happen until just after the actual show itself aired. So it wouldn't have happened for them to, mention it. But, and again, like I get it, Sia, it's her money and it's her, she's just offering to do it. But I wish they would at least be like, okay, we really appreciate what you're doing, but we got to have some type of like either legitimize it or not, because we didn't even get it last season. I'm pretty sure we didn't get it in 41. I don't think we've actually had it in a few seasons. And I don't like the way it can just kind of be sporadic and we may know, we may not know, because one thing, like, again, and like, because it comes up a lot in Big Brother, because America is so involved in, or you're watching it live, I should say, they all the time try and have twists where America gets to vote this, America gets to vote that. And I hate it. I hate America's influence from the outside. But I think there is a genuine reason to have an America's favorite player, because that doesn't have to do with the game as it's going on. That's kind of a reward for your game. And America has been watching you this whole time. I never vote for those, to be honest. I really don't. I always forget to. But I think that for the people that means something to them, that, hey, I've watched this whole season, I shouldn't have a say in what goes on, but I should get to have a reward to give to the production as a whole of, hey, this is who I like. So it bugs me that they don't have that as a staple. It almost was like, oh, Sia has to introduce this. And could I be wrong or am I wrong in remembering that I feel like it was actually a topic during the season one time where, like, during one of the episodes, not the finale, but one of the episodes, they're like, I'm really trying to get that Sia award. And it's like, like, I could be wrong on that, but I feel like that happened like several seasons ago. And now I know
I've never heard that.
Yeah, I know there's tons of like other recappers, kind of like we're talking now about how, oh, this person might be going for that. But I know that that's happened, but I'm pretty sure I've heard at least once. But again, we're talking years ago, so I can't remember.
If they did, and if they did end up standardizing it, how cool would it be to have they called it the sprint one several years back, during the heroes versus villains.
Yeah.
How cool would it be to have like a what's the pop star's name again? Sia? How cool would it be to have a Sia season? We had the winter season. How cool would it be just to have all of America's favorite?
That could be cool, because I mean, it's like it's a different twist on like America or fans versus favorites, which I don't like. I like the premise, but when in practicalness, you almost always get a returning winner. And that happens again. I know I refer to Big Brother so much, but its parallels are so similar. Almost every single time we have had a returning player on Big Brother come in, even when there's only been like 4, they've always been the winner. There was one time when there was only like 1, and that was season 19, and the dude still made it to final 2. So there's not only one, there's a couple others, but almost always the winner has this huge upper hand, because whether they like to admit it or not, they have an idol-like complex to him. So it'd be kind of like the players playing with only Rob and Sandra. I mean, they're the idols, right? So I mean, that it kind of gives off that vibe anyway. So I don't like the fans versus favorites personally for that reason, because it always kind of has the same outcome, just statistically based.
More of a heroes versus villains vibe as opposed to fans versus favorites. I would like only returning players if you were to do a Sia award.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that kind of gives you that same, like, it's kind of a fan favorite type thing, and which I mean could also be kind of mixed up with All Stars, because All Stars are kind of like the best voted in. That's one thing about All Stars, is like I feel like that's the only say America should have, because the country's voting for their favorites. But yeah, so
chances, I think. Second
chances did. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of those, but
we're way off topic.
We're way off topic. We get way off topic on these. But yeah, I definitely I like having I'll just say this, the only season that I'm okay with having half returning, half not returning is Blood versus Water, because it doesn't have that same kind of starstruck complex. A lot of
Yep.
those people that haven't played have already mingled with the returnees.
Yep.
And even if they're not, their spouse or their brother, whatever's on Survivor, they don't care. So that's the only kind of trade-off for me. But anyway, yeah, we're getting off topic, so we'll move on. Sammy, he says that because we're back at Vesey, he says that, or no, sorry, Baca. He says that he doesn't really like the guys versus girls stuff. He's really showing his age sometimes. I'm like, yeah. Yep. Just the way he words stuff. But he's like, I don't like the guys versus girls stuff. I don't need that. Oh, that's loud. But he does feel like he's got a really close connection with Gabler and Owen, which is that was an interesting viewpoint to hear, just because of all the stuff with Gabler going on. And yeah, but he says he's feel close to Gabler and Owen, and that's kind of where he wants to go from that direction there. But yeah,
I'm really glad that they mentioned, because I can't remember who was the one that mentioned it, but someone called Owen a second child, or that's what I have, high maintenance child. That blew
was
my mind.
I want to say it was Ellie.
Okay, yeah,
I want to say so, but I caught that, but I didn't catch who said it, so I didn't notate it. But yeah, I was like, okay, that's sure, that's a bold statement, but yeah.
Yeah, no,
I don't always take well with adults being spoken to like children. I feel like there's just like a respect barrier there. And you should at least have that much respect. I mean, there was
a lot of clips that genuinely showed that, though. I mean, those clips that they showed, I mean, he's a little bit more of and that's what I was mentioning earlier with him being more of a mantic player, more of an emotional, more of a, Sammy for his age, he's showing me that he's much more of a game player than Owen so far.
Yeah, 100%. Sammy is so impressive for his age. I mean, this kid is like my brother's age. Like at least at the time of airing, I mean, he's pretty much my brother's age, which is like weird to think that someone as young as my brother could be on there playing, doing that. So, but he doesn't come across as that young. I mean, he does. There are moments where like the way he words stuff, you can definitely tell he's like trying to tiptoe, trying to be a little bit careful with how he words stuff, which is fine. That's fine. It's just the way it comes across is a little bit like you can tell there's some types of some things that slip out. You're like, yeah, you're still young, but he definitely is doing far better of a gameplay than I would have expected someone from his age. And I am impressed, because of his circumstances. I am very impressed with what he's doing so far. We have seen that younger players do tend to get far in the game. They don't win.
We saw it in 41 where Xander, it was 41, where Xander made it all the way to the end. The first time we had a kid in high school ever compete, he made it to the merge. So younger players do have a sense for how the game should be played. It's just to be determined if he actually makes it.
What season was it? Was it Rick, the weatherman, or the news anchor? Was it his season that we had the 18-year-old? That was like very intrigued with the like 24. Rick Devens, 24, 25-year-old. And there was like a thing going on with that. But I think he was like 18 and he was telling everyone he was like 22. So definitely.
That's what Sammy's doing now is he's 19 telling people.
Yeah, he says he's like 22. So we've seen similar stuff, but I do think he's far more impressive than what we've seen so far. But yeah. Great challenge. I thought it was great. Did you say we've seen this one before? Because I don't remember the snake part of it.
Oh, the snake's been done so many times.
I couldn't even remember.
When they show the the intro, what is that called? The profile or bio, something like that for the episode. They actually tell you that it's the snake challenge.
Oh, okay.
And immediately I'm like, okay, so swimming plus climbing plus snake plus.
I can't believe I just cannot remember the snake ever. Like every other aspect I've seen it. Every other aspect of the challenge I've seen.
I'm gonna send you 4 or 5 videos at the end of tonight.
Send it to me because I'm like, I completely missed that. I know I'm not as detail oriented with Survivor as I am as Big Brother. I just have a lot of general knowledge, a lot of general knowledge.
You know the people, I know the gameplay. We work well
Yes,
together. We'll
I
make
know
it
the
work.
people. Yeah, I know the people. You know the stats a lot better than I do, and I mean the gameplay too, but specifically the stats and like talking about this.
Yep.
But yeah, I thought it was a great challenge. I loved watching them haul that over. That was very like it was also very difficult for them to be too distracted on what the other side's doing because literally like it's one of those again. And Survivor is very it's always like this, but even more so with this is it really depends on who you have because some people can breeze through that, some people can't, and no one breezed through it tonight. And it was a very
Ooh.
the entire challenge was very neck and neck up until like the very end with
Yep.
puzzle progression. I mean, pretty much everything else is very neck and neck,
Yep.
and I enjoyed it quite a bit. We did start to see Gabler struggling
Yeah.
during the challenge. Now, I'm 100% positive that we're going to see this, refer back to this again in a future episode because I was expecting to get something tonight. To be quite frank, I was expecting and I thought this in my head. I'm like, I don't see why they would even try and do this. It's completely illogical. But the setup it was giving me very One World vibes, where one tribe is
Oh.
like, hey, we need to get this person out. And I was like, that's very set up. And there's something else after, once we get back to tribal post uh immunity win, because spoiler alert, Baka wins. They come in first place. We get Coco in second place, and then we find out that Bessie goes to tribal. I will say, on a footnote, at the very end, whenever Baka's about to win, Jeff's like, "It's very close." Or no, it was when Coco was about to win. He's like, "It's very close," and it's like, dude, they literally have one piece, and the other side has like half. I'm like, that's not close. Sometimes I think Jeff's going mad, but I love Jeff. I love him. But sometimes I think he's going mad. Have I ever told you how much he reminds me of your dad sometimes? Just like the way he talks.
I can see it. I can see
Just
it.
like the way he talks.
We need to throw up a picture of my dad and a picture of Jeff side by side.
Yeah,
And
just their stance, and then like have like them like explain like just something, like have Jeff explaining a challenge, and then have your dad just explaining anything, and it's like very much like just like you can see the similarities in like the way they talk. I love your dad.
I did want to mention about the actual snake part of the challenge.
Yes, go ahead.
Owen absolutely manhandled that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ryan for Coco absolutely did a fantastic job. And Cody,
dude, he was riding the snake.
Holding on for dear life. Got
he
that
was
sucker.
riding the snake, dude. That was like, you ever see that episode of SpongeBob where they have that worm and they're like that's it, literally what popped in my head. I'm like, he is riding the snake like a bull. It was awesome. I loved it because I was like, I couldn't even like articulate what it was that I was seeing, and then Jeff's like, he's riding it. I'm like, yeah, he is riding it.
No, he's literally holding on.
He was literally riding it. Yeah, it was great. But yeah, so we see that Gabler is struggling, and I was very thrown off by how because we see them go back to Vesey, and Justine, we see that Justine's upset at NECA, and Noelle is kind of irritated at Cody, and I didn't catch why, but she was kind of annoyed with his performance in the challenge. But she also felt that NECA was the right choice to go with to vote out, is what she said. But then, and then Noelle talks to NECA, and Noelle comes up and tells NECA when Noelle and Cody are talking that, they're just talking about the stupid challenge. First off, I'm getting side railed again, but that was the stupidest, the stupidest way they could have gone about that, because it's like, obviously, you guys, Cody just told Jeff, oh, we're going to get like 20 footsteps into the tribe and we're going to be scrambling. So, like, everyone knows everyone's scrambling. Like, you have to be better on your feet than that. Like, I'm not that great on my feet, but I certainly just wouldn't be like, oh, we're just talking about the stupid challenge and how they're all over there eating fish. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not even like trying to convince them that that's not what you're saying. Yeah. So I thought that was very, very poor decision making on Noelle's side. And then even NECA is just like, she won't make eye contact with me. She's not looking at me. Like, I know something's up. It's very obvious. So horrible job there. But then we go back to Baka, and this is what I was saying earlier that I hadn't mentioned earlier before we started, but I don't like that they went back to another tribe that wasn't going to
Yes.
tribal.
Okay. Yes. I
I was like
1000% agree with you on this
I
because I
was like
noticed it and it did not fit.
because literally in my notes, I'm like, back at Baca? Question mark, question mark. Like
Yeah.
that made me think again, that reinforced my thought of they are going to try. At that point, I was like, okay, they're not going to hand over immunity. But I'm like, are we going to see, because they're really playing up, Gabler doesn't know how to use this thing, and he's going to. And me and my wife are sitting there watching, like, he's going to hurt himself with this. And I'm like, is he like, he's trying the slingshot, and we're both like, kind of like looking through our fingers, like, is he going to smack himself? Like, and
Yeah.
then they're like, he's going to go out to sea. She's like, I hope he doesn't lose a spear. And I'm like, I'm hoping he doesn't get lost at sea. Like, what are they about to do to Gabler?
Oh,
Because
goodness.
I'm like, why are they focusing on Baca?
Yep.
They have no point in this. And they've
Yep.
been teeing up the whole time that something's, I think it's imminent that something's going to happen to Gabler. I don't think he's going to go
Yep.
out by a vote. And I think that's what they're teeing up. Again, though, they could do that. They left seeds of that earlier in the pre-challenge part of the
Yep.
episode. They left seeds of that during the episode edit.
Yep.
They don't need to go back and take more time away. I mean, it's not like you don't have stuff to show. There was
Yep.
constant scrambling. And you don't need to just like try and be like, oh, we got to go back to this and fill it. No, use that for next episode. I mean, maybe they're like, I mean, but the way the editing works, I don't know if they would catch it in time, but maybe they already knew ahead of time. They're not going to have the showtime. Like maybe next week's just going to be an hour. So like, we're not going to have enough time to cram it, but it wasn't like that took up very much time. And that whole thing really summed up and tells you what, because again, they had already mentioned it earlier in the episode. They're like, if we go to tribal, we kind of know who we're going for. So now they're like, again, it's not like there's any other centerpiece around who's going to go next week. I mean, I could be eating my words, but even then, like at that point, this info would be irrelevant. So right. I really think that we're either going to see Gabler go home at the next tribal or at the very next tribal. If they go to tribal next or tomorrow night, or next week, we're probably going to see him leave. If not, I think he's not going to leave by a vote. Either way, they did not need to add that edit in here, took away from it, and completely like a very, very big red herring that I didn't appreciate.
Yeah.
From the editing standpoint.
I 100% agree. I did like that they mentioned how his immunity idol worked. I did like that from a gameplay aspect of it, just because, I mean, physically, you have to read the parchment. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before when they were talking about like a lawyer had to physically go read the parchment to make sure. And they actually said it in this one that he gets to play at his next tribal council. So that's, I mean, big, very, very big deal because they were going to be targeting him.
Yeah. And I think that, that's kind of their reason why they're like, well, they're talking about, we got to make sure it's safe at this tribal. But they could have, that still doesn't mean they had to put it in tonight. They could have edited around that. That was a very, very niche.
Absolutely.
They could have been like, flashback to, yesterday, we were all kind of scrambling because we were like, well, does it work for tonight? Does it work for his next one? So they didn't have to do that. It wasn't necessary. And it sounds very nitpicky, but it's like, there's just like, we need to know what's going on in the tribe that's actually sending someone home. Yeah. And so, I mean, yes, it is a little nitpicky, but also too, like you're giving us more time and then you're kind of throwing it away. And they didn't have to do that. So that's my first complaint about tonight's episode. And then I have another one, which I think we're in agreement with that one as well. Yep. But we go back to Vesey, where we should be. And Cody says that he either wants Justine or Noelle, who we're going with. And Jesse says that, well, Justine told me that she's really good at lying. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, now, let's preface this by just because someone says they're good at lying does not mean that they are good at lying. Yeah. But they might be.
Yeah.
You might be.
And so, the thing that I liked about it was Jesse immediately went to Dwight and was like, hey, we're getting into the pineapple zone here. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're getting into this zone that me and my wife have. We're in the pineapple zone. We can say whatever we want to say. And then confrontation that he has with Justine and was like, hey, she's lying, and if she's willing to do that now and bluff her way, I want to try. Like, you don't tell people in this game, hey, I can lie. I know how to do it. I'm not going to lie to you, but I can do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't do that and expect to go far in this game.
100%. Because again, maybe she's not. Maybe she's playing herself up more in her head, but she might be. She might be good at it. And now you're giving that up. And yeah, 100%. And the pineapple zone, I didn't put that in my notes, but that was great because what that did was it tells Dwight, okay, we have this safe zone, but not only do we have this safe zone, it's something that it's not just us. Hey, this is personal to me, right? We've all been out here for what, 4 or 5 days now.
5 days.
Is something that, this is something that me and my wife share. Okay, this is something important to me, and I want to bring you into this to connect with you, to kind of and he didn't go over all that, but I think it was very subtle. And I think he kind of knew what he was doing when he said that, because you don't just throw that out there willy-nilly. I think he really knew, hey, this is going to kind of show him that I'm trusting you. I'm not just going to, bring this up to anyone, kind of like swearing on your kid or something. Like, I'm not just going to, this means something to me. So I want to represent that. And I think that did great. Now, I don't know that Dwight was super respondent to it, but or receiving it very well, but I think Jesse had played a good move there when doing that. But yeah, they're in the pineapple zone, and he's telling them about all this stuff with Justine, and then we see Justine show up and basically says
one of the stupidest moves in Survivor history.
I'm like, what are you doing? Go ahead, take it. You take it.
Stupidest thing. You do not confront the people that are swaying the vote. I underlined exclamation points all over my notes. If you ever get to play this game, please call me first. But then afterwards, you don't go to your alliance members and say, hey, who are you voting for? Mm-hmm. Can I trust you? Do we need to have a private conversation? You don't do that in this game and expect to go far. Mm-hmm. It's not what you do. And Jesse immediately picked up on it, immediately had the correct response that anybody in this game would have. And it just, 100%. Stupid gameplay.
I was going to say this too, and this kind of gives it away a little bit. I think it would be fun, since we kind of gave our winner picks last week, each week kind of give not necessarily our winner pick, because we already locked in our winner pick. We can't go back on that. But each week, I think we should do kind of like okay, who do we think's in the best position this season or this week?
Deal.
Who do we think really is going to get that? Because Owen's still very much in a good spot, but I do think that there are some other people that are shining that we'll look at, and again, can't change our winner pick, but we can at least see kind of who we think week by week
is in the driver's seat.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, so yeah, but I 100% agree. I looked at that, I was like, what are you doing? This dude is literally over here trying to get you out, and you're over here like, hey, you're the swing vote. You're the one that's going to decide whether or not I leave. So I'm going to make sure that you actually you're voting to keep me, right? Because I don't trust you. It's like, no, you say, hey, I got you. We're good. I trust you 100%. I think we're solid. I want to rock this out with you. What are you doing? It didn't make any sense. Stupidest thing ever. 100%. Stupidest thing ever. But yeah, so Jesse goes and talks to Cody and NECA.
Yep.
And basically says that, this is what's going on. This is what I want to do. She just came up to me after I was already trying to convince Dwight, and just really shoved it further down my throat that, yeah, this is what we need to do. And, Dwight's not really on board, but I think, if the three of us go, he doesn't really have a vote anyway, and he knows that. So he doesn't really have a say. And good on Dwight. Again, I never like when people back down from, trying to make moves, but I do appreciate that he just at least realized, hey, right now we're playing a group game. And when we get to the merge, it's all about me. But right now we're playing a group game, and I don't have a vote. So I really don't get a say. I have to adapt and try and maneuver that better. And I really appreciated, him being able to address that. But yeah, Jesse's trying to convince Cody and NECA. And uh, yeah, and we see that Cody definitely did something that another Cody that I know would do, and that is check the spelling of the name beforehand, because I cannot spell to save my life. The more I watch of this man, the more I think maybe we really are the same person, because I cannot spell to save my life. And that's literally, I could 100%. In fact, I'm pretty sure during Survivor Day, I actually did do that at one point. So it's at least during the voting itself, like asking the person, like, how do you spell this? Oh, we have that on video, don't we?
We do.
We do. Yes, I completely forgot about that.
I need to
I'm
literally
over
send you.
here. I'm over here replaying it in my head. I'm like, that's something I would do. I feel like I did that. I did do that. So
Yeah,
yes.
you actually, there was a clip that was like, last time I knew the person but not the name. This time I know the name but not the like it was one of those clips where you just completely, you actually voted out the person's brother who was playing as opposed to him. But we all knew what you meant. So like
Yeah,
it
fair enough.
yeah, that was yeah.
But yeah, but I like that because Cody's just, again, I can relate to that, but he's also like, all right, this is what we're going with. This is what we're doing. So he's like, I'm set.
Yep.
We already got the plan. All's good. But there's still another like 20 minutes left of the episode for something to really go wrong. Because plans are never set this early in the episode. And, well, we see. Because Cody wants to go looking for an idol. He says, listen, normally I wouldn't touch the stuff. I think it's like, it's terrible. It's the kiss of death. You don't go looking for it. But we're going to tribal and that changes everything. So I'm going to go do it. It's like, no, that doesn't change everything. Like,
no,
you're in a better position to do it, but you're not, like, just because it's tonight's tribal doesn't necessarily, like, we've had seasons like that. We've had seasons where like the very next day after tribal, everyone's like running and searching out, again, fans versus favorites too. That was an event that happened where everyone's running and scrambling trying to find the idol, but that's not what the season is, at least not right now. And you're still like, you can't. My biggest concern is him just being like, I'm fine to do it now. Like, he's still kind of watching over his shoulder, but he's not concerned about the target it puts on him, which that to me is like, no, you still, if you get caught, you're still going to be caught and they're still going to be just as mad. You're just in a slightly better position now because everyone's a little more tame because the decisions, quote unquote, already been set.
I actually agree with the gameplay. I really do. Like, that you're in the majority of an alliance. That like you're not going to be the first one voted out here. You have to go to tribal, but it's not going to be you. I agree with the gameplay, but the second that he finds something, I disagree with the gameplay, and I'll let you go into that from here.
Well, yeah. Real quick, we'll catch up on a little bit of the chat here because we missed some. Say hey to Mona and Marine because we've been getting carried away here. We won't cover everything that's going on. But one thing I did want to touch on is, Mona saying hit the like button. Definitely appreciate it. Do want to touch on that. If you're enjoying the stream, hit that like button. Definitely helps us out. Thank you, Marine, for that. And then we see some people are trying to tell me how wrong I am about winners beating returnees. Yes, those are some examples, but we will go into another time. I will bring up many other examples where that is not the case. But Crazy Matt says two things. One of them is that pineapples are like the international sign of being a swinger. I'd change it if I was them. I was not aware of that. But hopefully they're watching the stream right now or after the fact and they see that. And if it's unintentional, then they might. If it's at this point it's already on TV, so there's no point in changing it. It's kind of like their thing. If it is intentional, then they definitely won't change it. But the other thing Crazy said here that I thought was a good point to cover, in case this is your first time watching Big Brother, or not Big Brother, in case this is your first time watching Survivor, he says, why wouldn't you look for an idol? It's safety, right? That's a good point. The problem is that when you go, targeting. The moment you go and look and search out for an idol, everyone knows exactly what you're doing. There is no hiding. Just because you're in an island as opposed to a house, everyone's keeping track of everyone, especially because each tribe right now, there's 3 tribes and there's 6 people per tribe, at least starting out. If you're missing, everyone knows you're missing. The exception is maybe sometimes if you're going to check tree mail or you're going to get water, but even then, if you're not at least taking one other person with you, sometimes two, to cover like as your witnesses, you are still at threat of being accused of it. A lot of people have been sent home that hadn't even gone to look for the idol because they were out just exploring the surroundings, and everyone thought, oh, they're definitely going for an idol. So very good question, but that would be why, because it puts a huge target on your back when doing that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, you've seen it in several different cases. A lot of times when people get a little antsy, a little paranoid, you'll see them go and look for them, and it paints that target even bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And it concretes in people's mind, hey, they're being sketchy, so therefore I can't work with them, so they need to go home because I don't know what they have.
Yep. So, but yeah, so that hope that answers your question, Crazy. But so back to Cody, he goes looking for an idol, and he finds not an idol, but an advantage. Now, I gotta say, I think that the decision. I mean, it's a gamble, right? So, I mean, you know that you're gonna have to do something to do it.
Yeah.
Certain times. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because you just rewatched both the past 2 seasons. The same advantage, was that the same one that they had to make the statement at each tribal? Okay.
Verbally make the statement. And so the second I saw this beware advantage, I thought there's no way he's getting a vote tonight if he opens that. If he decides to open this piece of paper, it is the stupidest decision he'd ever make.
Yep. And I agree. I think in most scenarios where you are not, like, if your vote is not depending on if your vote is not depending on the final decision that night, anything can change. So you're still risking a lot. But I would say, depending on, like, if this were going off, and again, as soon as he opens that, I'm like, it's not the same rules as last season, because everyone else in the tribe's going to know you're speaking a bunch of gibberish. You sound like you're having a stroke. Obviously, we know what's going on. But if that is what it is, I'm like, I don't mind it. But at the same time, you're still risking losing your vote for a while. With this format, I think that was incredibly risky. And so I'm like, but I really like the high risk, medium reward. If you're going to get something like with all these other advantages, that's one aspect that I do like, is that they're making them harder to get. You can't, just because you're good at finding stuff, you're good at a scavenger hunt, does not necessarily mean that you're still going to get an advantage. And so I like the rules. I think as a advantage rule, I think it's great. I think as a player, it's terrible to actually go for it, like you were saying. And it obviously it didn't pan out for Cody, because he is going to lose his vote until he can collect all of these beads, and he's got to get one from each tribe member.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is terrible.
One thing I do want to mention, though, the lack of gameplay on Cody's part here, when he physically sees beware advantage, he has the benefit of hindsight of knowing what happened in 41 and 42. He knows when he sees that, open it tomorrow. You don't have to go and open it at this exact second. Go bury it in the sand. I'll open it when I get back. I'm so excited. I'm going to get this.
Now, that might be, I thought about that too. That might be one of those read between the line implications, where it's kind of understood that, hey, if you don't do it, because we haven't seen someone pass up on it. So
yes, we
feel like have we?
Yes,
did I miss
we have.
it?
So there was the I think it was 41 where they said, we're just going to leave it where it sits. We're going to leave it there. No one's going to open it because we don't want to lose our vote right now. And so because they'd already seen it from the person that they voted out the previous time. And so what ended up happening was somebody went over there, opened it up, and then put it back where it physically was. She was the one who, I can't remember which season this was. I'm pretty sure it was 41, but basically, like, that person will, yeah. But we do know that you can leave it there. You physically don't have to take it.
Yeah,
but
no, I
you
know you can leave it there. I just didn't know that you could bury it. I didn't know if it would be in the same spot if you left it there and came back the next
Oh,
day.
okay. I actually don't know that. I don't know if you can move it from the spot. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a rule that because that was in
yeah.
plain sight. That was
Yeah,
in
no, 100%. I know that they can just choose to not do it, obviously, because it kind of says whenever it shows up, if you open this, you're screwed. Basically, is what it's trying to warn you. So you can
yeah,
choose to leave it. So I know we know they can leave it, but if it will stay there, that's what I was unaware of. If it'll stay in that spot, I'd be certain that I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure that they can't move it. But I would be interested to know if they can move it for one
yeah,
and hide it. I don't think they can. I think that kind of goes against the whole point of it. But also if well, I mean, there is kind of a risk versus reward there too. Is hey, what if it is an idol and I don't open it tonight and I go home tonight? So that is that
yep,
potential. Still, I'd be curious to know the official rules.
yep.
But also too, if I choose to not get it, is it going to stay here in the same spot? Which it sounds like from what you were saying it is the case.
Yep.
Or if I know that it gets put it back into play. I can't remember if it stays in the same spot or if it gets relocated.
Yeah.
That's what I'm needing clarification on. But that might be from 41. I'll go back and look and see how that went down there. But yeah, so Cody goes and talks to Jesse about it. He's like, dude, we're screwed. He's like, we were in such a good spot, and then dadgummit, I went and screwed us over. And Jesse's basically like, it's okay, dude. We got this. We're gonna cover it. And so he goes and starts talking to everyone. And I will be honest, I missed the exact moment where they were discussing it, but we come back to the camp, and Cody's sitting there, and he's basically like, "Hey, I want to," and if I'm getting this detail wrong, correct me because I had some screaming kids going on, so I was trying to address that. But basically, he says, "Hey, I'm going to build this hat for Tribe." And kind of represents everything, and he kind of keeps it for himself, but he's kind of basing this off of, hey, this is like a tribe thing, like we're all going to contribute, we're all
Mhm.
still here, we should all add our piece to it. And I'm like, dude, that's a genius. Like he knows how to
Oh,
weave that from his
brilliant.
experience. Yeah, from his experience, that's an advantage that he has, is that he happens to know how to do that, because the rest of them people didn't know how. I don't know how to weave a
Yeah.
hat like that. You don't know how to
No.
weave it, but he had that expertise, that specific niche where he knew how to do that. And but just because he had that knowledge of how to do that does not mean necessarily that he was going to. So that's what I love. It's not that he had this upper hand. He did, but a lot of other people could have come in there with a lot of different skills and talents that had to use their own implication of that had to come up with their own, okay, well, what is my version of this? How am I going to do that? And I don't know that a lot of people are going to figure something out. They don't give us a very clear timetable. He says, I only got a few minutes left. I don't think it was just a few minutes, but it wasn't a whole lot of time. I think he had like an hour or so to
Yeah.
really come up with something. And I think he really pulled through. Again, yes, he had the advantage, and not everyone was going to get it, and that advantage helped him. But it was using his real world knowledge and applying that to what he was doing, and he came out on top of that one, or at least we find out later, because in the moment we see that, oh, everyone is going to add to it. Even Justine is like, oh yeah, sure, here, throw him on in there. Which he was like, there's no way I'm getting his, and he's like, there's no way I'm getting Dwight. Dwight was hesitant, but he was like, okay, and I get it as a fan. I mean, we even had back in Colton's first season where he decides to keep his idol as like a souvenir as opposed to
Yep.
giving it to the tribe.
Yep.
Um, that's something that's ever since then, that's something that's popped up in my head, because I feel like we've seen other times where they've kind of mentioned, no, like you give that stuff back. So I feel like that's always been like a catch 20, but or catch 22, but they kind of right out said it. No, a lot of people are going to be using all their stuff as souvenirs and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
he was like, I guess he can have this one piece. Like, I don't want to be the one that prevents the rest of the tribe from having this special thing. But Noelle is like, no, I'm going to keep mine. It looks good as a bracelet. And you cannot tell me, I watched this, you cannot tell me she wasn't doing that just to go against the grain, just because she knew that everyone else is doing it. And I don't think she even realized there was any strategy behind it, because if she did, it would have been completely stupid of her to finally succumb to it and give it in. But I think she was just kind of like, there's something going on here, and I'm just gonna say nope. But I don't think she really had any, like, I feel like she kind of was a little bit hesitant, but was like, whatever, screw it. Like, again, that's why I don't think she realized really what was going on. I think she was just like, ads. You guys do your kumbaya stuff. I'm just gonna kind of do my own thing. Like, I'm not gonna give up my
Yeah,
stuff just for the rest of the tribe. So I was kind of annoyed at her approach to that. Again, not that it was necessarily in her favor. Like, it was good that if she hadn't, but from a tribe perspective, you don't want to be the only one pissing off your tribe. Like, everyone else is coming together
yeah,
trying to be like, and you're going into tribal council, like, if you don't already, and she would have said something. I feel like they would have had a journal session where
yeah,
she was like, I think there's something going on here and I don't want to contribute to that. So the fact that we didn't get that is what makes me think that probably isn't really aware of what's actually happening, and or at least as much as she would like you to think. And
yeah.
I think that's kind of hurting her in that aspect. But
I
I
feel
didn't
like
I didn't like any of that approach. How do you feel? I'm rambling, but I didn't like the way any of that was handled on her side.
I feel like it was more the gameplay of Jesse, because Jesse was the one kind of pushing the envelope with like, "Oh, here you go," and then
Mhm.
like, "NECA, do you want to join it?" "Oh yeah, NECA," because NECA and Jesse
Yeah.
both knew, and so it
Yes.
was just like, "All right, hey, Dwight, do you want to, And they already got Justine's really quickly, and so I think it was more Jesse's play of like, "Hey, if you're supposed to be voting with me, Noel, like you need to be voting with me, like, hey, like give up your beads. Come on, like this is
Yeah.
a tribe thing. I think it was more, I
Yeah.
don't think it was Cody as much as it was Jesse being that swing vote and being able to kind of manipulate the tribe to do whatever was needed for this particular tribal council.
I think you're 100% right. I will. The only thing I'll say is I will give Cody just a little bit more credit because he was able to kind of come up with a way of doing it. But
Oh,
I
absolutely.
definitely
Absolutely.
agree that Jesse was the one that, without Jesse there, that didn't work. I think
Nope.
he had to have that ally aspect where, he's got this guy that's like, hey, let's kind of inside baseball. You know what's going on. I know what's going on. So let's kind of manipulate the situation, and you kind of influence me. You'll be my wingman, basically his wingman. It really is what it was. And his hype man. And he's like, hey, let's do this. And okay, oh yeah, guys, hey, yeah, come on, I'll add to it. Hey, NECA, you should join in. Who else? And Justine is like, oh yeah, I'll add to it. So no, 100% agree with you there. And thank you for bringing that up, because that is a very good point that Jesse, because I kind of noticed that, but
Yeah.
yeah, Jesse was definitely really very much steering the ship with that.
Yep.
Um,
We
and
have a few we have a few chats if you want to go over them
Yeah,
from
so I
Matt.
was just about to go back over it. So we'll cover Crazy Mad. He says so they only look for an idol when they feel they're in trouble. Not necessarily, but the point of I mean, everyone wants an idol because it kind of doesn't guarantee your safety, but it's another tool in your belt in case you feel like you're in danger. The
Yep.
problem is, even whenever like there's two things. It's a double-sided coin. The part where if they are in trouble, yes, a lot of people go look for one when they're in trouble, but and when they do that, sometimes it doesn't look to the rest of the tribe that they're in trouble. And so if they start looking, it's like, okay, well, obviously that person, like, why do they feel so uncertain? So that is an aspect, but more often than not, it's not necessarily that they feel in trouble, even though that might be the reason they're going to it, because sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes
Yeah.
people just go look for it because they want the extra security. But regardless, when people do that, if the rest of the tribe has even a hint, even the slightest hint that you might have something, you're a target, because now you have an upper hand on every other person in the tribe. And so that's why that's the overwhelming. Yeah, there is other additions to it, but that's the overwhelming reason that you might or that someone would have a target on their back for going and looking. A couple different reasons, but yeah, good question. And then he says, and then they are definitely getting voted out, and they use it. Am I correct? No. So the way it works is, if you have an idol, everyone makes their vote, and then before Jeff reads the votes, then you have the opportunity to use your idol. You can choose to display it for everyone before the votes are voted. And people might get scared and think, well, they're going to use it That's a very big strategy, is putting it on display, making other people think, hey, I have this and I'm probably going to use it tonight. So they might throw, usually they're still going to put a couple votes on you, but they might throw some other votes on a plan B. So that way they can flush your idol out. Then I mean, it gets really into the grains. We won't go too into it because there's a lot of different ways. Once you kind of watch, you kind of see the different ways that they can do it. But when you have an idol, I'll just say, if you have an idol and you put it on display, there's a lot of different ways you can use that in a manipulative form to your advantage. You might try it, like we were saying, try and show it off, make someone think you might use it, and then you don't, and then you have the idol next week, and then they're like, well, we wasted a whole vote to not get you out this week, so now we got to put up with you again, knowing that you'll probably use it next week. So we're gonna have to wait 2 more weeks, or 2 more rounds, I guess. But there's a lot of different implications with that. But just because you have it doesn't necessarily mean you're safe. You still have to play it appropriately, because if you don't, then they can still vote you out. So there's a lot of different pieces of that. And then catch up with Maureen here. She says, "Did Cody collect all the beads? I wasn't listening a few minutes back." So we'll get to that point because we're about to cover tribal. So we will come back into that, because we get back to tribal, and Probst is basically spoiling everything with the hat. I'm like, dude, stop. Like, you're trying to get him to do something creative so that they don't figure it out. And then you try and say you don't influence the game, but you're very much trying to influence the game, because now you're trying to be like, what's up with that hat? What's so special about the hat? Oh, it sounds like a hat's going to be the entire reason someone gets voted out. It's like, you're trying to address it, and I don't like it.
See, I'm a little on the fence about that, because I absolutely understand and love the way that Jeff does his storytelling. He is a legitimate storyteller. He is somebody that he drives the narrative of Survivor. And just if I ever get the chance to meet him, I will tell him this to his face. He does a fantastic job with how he directs these stories, because we only get to see that little snippet of these things. He may have gone around and said, "Hey, what do you think about the hat? What do you think about the hat?" We don't know how their editing goes. They don't know. I've heard that these tribal councils last close to like 3 hours, and we get 15 minutes. Like, that's it.
If sometimes we get like 6 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes we only get like 5 minutes. So
yeah,
the live travels really add to that. But yeah, you're 100% right. And I was conscious about that too. I was, not trying to give myself too much credit, but I was very conscious of that. As like, yes, there could be a lot of different stuff. This could be kind of more of a normal thing, and we're just happening to get to see it tonight because it fits in with the edit. So maybe it wasn't something that the rest of the players were really that cognizant of, and we don't know. And that's just something that we don't have. We're not privy to that information, really. So I will concede with that point, but at the same time, I'm just like, it felt a little too much. Like, you're still a little bit, because he kept coming back to it. He's like, "What about the hat? Cool hat. What's it gonna take for you to make a hat for everyone else? Okay, well, if she wants a hat, she can't be voted out. She's got to last tonight. Okay, so and then he's like, whoever gets voted out, I'll give you a hat. So now the hat is a really big point. Now this hat becomes the whole point of who's going. And it's like, no, that's not what he said. You're trying to allude to it, and that's what really was driving me nuts. I was like,
Cody did say, though, she'd have to be here tomorrow.
He did, and that's why I was like, that's not a good play.
No.
But I also wonder if maybe he was kind of feeling entrapped just because of like the way the questioning was coming. Maybe he's like, I guess just stay here tomorrow. Like, because honest to God, when you're not thinking about it from the game sense, it's a very harmless statement. It's like your boss saying, okay, you want to make bracelets for all your coworkers. What do you got to do? Well, just be here tomorrow and I'll teach you how to do it. I don't know that it even came across as like gameplay.
And then he fires you at the end of the day. Is that
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is that he might not have meant it as that. He might just been like, oh, just show up tomorrow. I mean, because we're at tribal, someone's gonna leave. So as long as you're here tomorrow, then I'll do it. I don't know that he meant it as that. I kind of interpreted it as that, but at the same time, I also don't think it was smart of him to say it. I recognize it. I'm like, you're really kind of putting yourself in hot water there by
Yeah.
addressing it that way, and I didn't like it. But I also kind of think, I think it was a double-edged sword. I think he definitely has some onus for that. I also think part of it is the way the questions were coming at him. He was kind of like, okay, but that was a very weird question. What does Justine have to do to get a hat from you? It's like, I don't know. Like, what? I'll make you one. Just be here tomorrow. I'll make you one.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
again, I think that wasn't the right thing to say, but I don't know what I would have said in that moment.
But it does, if you go back over the votes, which I don't know if you did this. I don't want to skip too far ahead. One thing that I did really like about this about the tribal was the proposal from Jesse to Dwight. That tickled me pink because genuinely, like, there was Jeff talked about the 2-2-2 alliance, which, I mean, honestly, Jesse had full control over his two on that side, luckily. And genuinely, it drove that story home of like, these two are a married couple, and then you see it at the very end of the night. I'll let you go a little bit farther into that, but you
No,
see it at the very end.
I agree, and because she kind of throws out all these different options, and what the tribe layout is. I did kind of love that moment between Jesse and Dwight where they're like, "Oh, we are. Oh, do you want?" Like, they played into it, which is great. Like that, I feel like that's a great response to it. Is like, you're trying to make it sound like that's ridiculous, And they both were on the same, like, regardless of where they were on the vote, they're both on the same page. It's like, no. Like, oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, thanks for letting us know that we're involved in this. I think that's the best way that they could handle that in that moment. But yeah, that's all I really picked up from that. Do we still have you?
Yeah,
Oh, there you
sorry.
are. Okay, you were frozen solid. You cut out once earlier, so I was like, oh man, is he still there? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
But anyway, so she kind of gives the breakdown of the alliance, and I don't know. Do you have anything else to say before we get to the vote?
Let me see here. No, just the edit, the new edit that they did. I'll let you get into that now because that's the last thing I have before the physical votes.
Yeah, so and it kind of goes hand in hand with the votes too, because we see that Jeff asks, as we were mentioning earlier, the breakdown of how the idols work. Anyone has hidden, it bugs me as an OG. It bugs me to hear the phrase go from, if anyone has an immunity idol and like to play it.
It hurts.
Now they go from that to, if anyone has a hidden immunity idol or an advantage and you would like to play it. I hate it. It, like, I shiver every time I hear it. I don't like it.
It's just like, come on in.
Yeah. But anyway, he says that anything. So it leads to believe that there is no extra advantage, whatever. And Cody didn't get it. But then the votes are read, and right before the last vote was cast or was announced, we get a flashback, and Cody tells us how he was finally able, because of Jesse, because of NECA, was able to convince Noel to give him that bead, which meant not that he did get the advantage, but that wasn't the point. He was able to maintain his vote for tonight, and so he was able to cast that final vote. And as I was telling you before we started, I hated this. I hated it.
Yeah.
I don't like the editing of movie style. This isn't a movie. It's not some series dramatic thing. We are watching gameplay as it happens. That's what you're supposed to reveal to us. Now, there's some stuff that we aren't privy to, as we said earlier, but as the game is playing out, I get why they did it. 100% understand why, but I hate it. And I think it was one of the worst things they could have done. Because again, this is not a movie. We need to see how it's playing out as a whole. And I do think that it was more entertaining. Like, that aspect is, yeah, I completely get it. And if I wasn't so like gung-ho on it, I'm sure I would have loved it. But like, because there was a part of me that was like, it's kind of cool, but also that sucked, because that's not what the whole edit is supposed to be about. We're supposed to see the gameplay as it's going on, as it's developing. And they just kind of threw that at us like we were kind of stupid, and I didn't like it. And
it really did kind of, for people who are kind of OGs with this, it really did kind of throw it in our face of like, this is something new. We're trying this new. I don't necessarily love it.
Yeah.
I'm not as passionate about it as you are, but
Yeah, I
it's
hate it.
still,
I hate
yeah,
it.
it was new. And you know
I
what?
hate it as much as I hate Edge of Extinction. I'm that
Oh,
I'm that much
okay.
anti
All right.
against it.
We'll have a whole nother stream about
Yeah.
Edge of Extinction,
Oh
but
yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Spoiler alert, we both hate it because it's crap. And even Jeff Probst says, as much as I love it, everyone said it's crap, so we're getting rid of it. He said that at the premiere for season 40, going into a season that had it. He was interviewed by Rob over at RHAP, and he straight up told him, I get the feedback, and as much as I love it, I understand I understand your perspective, so we're getting rid of it. It sucks. And even though Jeff loves it, he's still like, it sucks. So, yeah, I hate it, and
they had to do it for the
you hate it.
winners to make sure
Yeah.
all the winners could
And
stay
I
till the
get that.
end.
I do get it, and I think that it kind of would have been challenging to do it without. But like you're bringing back OGs, like all winners, all like it's so what's the word I'm thinking of? Retro, not even retro, but I guess in the sense of Survivor retro. If you're gonna do something like that, bring back Redemption Island. Like a
Yeah,
lot of people hate Redemption Island too, but it's not nearly as
I
crappy as
I've
I
never
like
heard
Redemption Island.
I've never heard a bad word about Redemption.
I've heard a lot of people that don't like it. I know a lot of people that don't, but mostly because the general premise of you're voted out, you should be out. And I
Agreed,
don't disagree.
agreed,
I don't
sure.
disagree with that, but I do enjoy it. Sorry, I do like it, but
Agreed.
I'm not mad at people that don't. I understand why, and so I understand why they don't have it. I'm not mad at it.
All
I
of
miss
my
it.
all of my Survivor days are
Yes,
Redemption Islands. Like
yes,
every single, and that's how I will always do them,
yeah.
because there should be something in the game that if you're just put on a bad tribe, like that's not your 100% fault. And so
Yep.
you should be able to work your way back into the game. But
Yeah.
I digress with that.
Yeah.
I do want to get into this vote because it was very, very interesting how the votes physically played out.
I don't know. I didn't catch it. Where that
Oh,
Cody vote came from. Was that
okay.
supposed to be Justine? Because she was the only person that threw shade at him.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So Dwight had no vote. NECA, Jesse, and Cody voted for Justine, and then Justine voted for Cody, and Noelle voted for NECA.
Gotcha.
So even if Cody couldn't find his vote, I don't know why, but Justine and Noella, like they just didn't get on the same page. They didn't want to split. I don't understand that gameplay. I think that she thought she was going out and she was going home after after tribal council basically happened. I think she got spooked and she was just like, well, I'm voting for Cody. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand that, because if Cody would have not gotten all the beads, that would have been a heck of I was getting so excited with 10 minutes left. And I'm like, are we going to Rocks? Like, we haven't gone to Rocks in like 10 seasons. Like, are we going to Rocks?
Yep. No, and they played that up. And I think that was part of, again, the dramatic part of it as, okay, we got this thing. We want to play it, because I was kind of like, are we going to Rocks? That's kind of cool. I mean, this early in the season, and that's going to have a big implication. The only thing I don't like about it is, and this specifically popped in my head of Game Changers, when Sari leaves by default because of how many advantages, how many of crap. Like, that's why I'm like, that is the embodiment of why there are too many advantages, why there's too much in here, because it's affecting the gameplay so bad that someone left by default, not by voting, by default, because everyone else had such individual safety and it was complete crap. I hated it. I almost threw my remote at the TV when I saw that. I was like, this is horrible. And while this is not nearly on that same level, it kind of brought me back to that, where I'm like, okay, well, are we going to have this draw Rocks period? Because not because of advantages, but because of disadvantages. But I will say, and I'm sure it might, some people might think it sounds hypocritical. I like it. I don't mind it. I won't yet say I like it. I'm undecided, but I don't mind it, because you risked your vote. It's not like, because this actually has to do with the vote. Not all these advantages are causing everyone to by default leave. No, you risked your vote. There's still going to be a vote.
Yep.
Unlike when Suri left, there's still going to be a vote, and that vote is still going to determine who goes home. You just lost your vote because you went for a advantage that wasn't, you didn't get it, and you risked it and you lost it. We've had, sorry, and again, I do this all the time. Back to Big Brother, back in the earlier seasons, they would actually, people that would break the rules would lose their vote. Like I won't go into it now, but there was like a certain segment where, I'll explain it to you another time, but there's a certain part of the game aspect where if you broke this rule on a week by week basis, if you broke it that week, you were losing your vote that week. And so I don't mind someone losing their vote for something legitimate. I mean, not just willy nilly, but if they actually, like with Shot in the Dark, love Shot in the Dark. One of the best things they've come up with in like a decade of this show. Love Shot in the Dark. I really don't mind them doing this whole, you risked your vote and now you lose your opportunity. Again, the way they edited everything, it was just everything was just too much for me from that aspect. But yeah,
I would. Oh, I don't know. I think what taking away their votes is doing is there's not going to be as many split votes. And that's what I really like, is it gives people who have idols better chances for playing the game. In that sense, in 41 and 42, there were way too many advantages where someone would have an idol and an extra vote and a steal a vote. And, I remember at one time, one person had like 4 advantages, and I was just like, okay, they're in the driver's seat. Like, what are you supposed to do here?
I know. It's just like, I know. I just saw that and I'm like, what even is this? Like, it's not like when you have that much, it's not the same game at all. It's not. And I'm like, you are losing the ability. Like, people are going on the show to play a game. Yep. They know going into it, they have a certain level of control and a much greater level of uncontrollable. But they're going into it knowing they have that bit of control. You've completely taken that control away. Like Suri, she had zero say, zero ability to avoid that. It doesn't matter how hard and correct me if I'm wrong, she wasn't even the target that week. She was just by default the person that had to go. And that is so crap, because you have no ability to control your own fate. Like, and I'm fine with very, very limited. You shouldn't have an overwhelming ability, but you should have at least an ability. And when you have that completely taken away from you, that's what annoys me, because that's not what the game is about. You can't what are you surviving? Like, what is the whole point of the game? It's completely gone when you do that. I hate it.
We do need to go to chats, because I'm seeing some.
We got a couple more, then we're going to wrap this up, because I got to make a Walmart run before they close. And I got very little amount of time. So anyway, but Crazy says, what is going to Rocks?
Another video.
Another video. Basically, quick summarize is that going to Rocks basically means that you're at a tie. You've revoted and no one's changed their vote. So you're at a deadlock, and there has to be a way to determine who's going home. So then the people who were voted for, they now become safe. And the people that were voting against them if they can't decide on one person in an open forum, then they have to vote someone else out. Then they draw rocks, and the rocks determine whoever draws the oddball rock, that person's going home. That's a general gist of it. And then he says, I'm wholly confused. It sounds like the vote is 3-1-1 and Justine isn't leaving. Not quite. It basically was, and she did leave. It was just, there was a lot of, again,
it was a 3-1-1 vote with Jesse, with Dwight did not vote, with Cody and NECA voting for Justine. Justine voted for Cody, and then Noella voted for NECA.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I hate saying it, because I feel like it sounds like just kind of like meh. But really the best way to understand it is really to watch. What I would recommend is, if you've kind of had a bad taste about Survivor for a while, go back and watch Heroes versus Villains because it's an all returnee season, but you will still be able to adapt to the people that, even though the rest of, they're all known because they're all returnees, you'll still be able to kind of figure out the game, and it's a great gameplay. After that, my biggest recommendation is Blood versus Water, my favorite season of all time.
I just watched that one with my wife, and my wife said that was her favorite season of all time.
I love it. It's my favorite season of all time. Yours is Heroes versus Villains. Understandably,
yes.
It's been so long since I've watched it. I've got to go back and watch it.
You have to watch Samoa and then go into Heroes versus Villains.
I'm just thinking of like compelling gameplay, something that's really going to draw them in. But if you're saying Samoa,
you're drawn in. Obviously I am biased. My favorite player of all time is
Russell. You're right. Samoa, is that 19?
That's 19. So it's 19
because no one else had seen Russell. Am I wrong? They went into that without seeing him.
So the really cool thing about that was the season 19 going into 20. Russell, he gets to the final 3 for Samoa, and then he rolls 2 weeks. There were 13 days in between season 19 and season 20, and they roll him into season 20. And I won't spoil season 20, but very good gameplay by Russell. My personal favorite survivor of all time. Has his own podcast and YouTube channel. Love it. I am
and I won't reveal the winner of Blood versus Water, but the winner of that is I've not decided exactly my favorite player of all time, but one of my favorite players of all time.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's your favorite player of all time.
One of my favorite players of all time, if not my favorite player. At least in the era that I grew up in, I should say, was Survivor. That mid tier.
Who is also never mind. I'm not gonna spoil that.
I'll say that. But yeah, definitely I would watch. He's right. Go watch 19, then 20, and then I will check by the time you won't have been caught up by then. So next week I'll check and I'll try to remember. Do you remember Blood versus Water? What number that is off the top of your head?
I'm gonna say 26.
I don't. I feel like it's further than that. I feel like it's like late 20s or early 30s, or right at.
Now
I'll double check. But anyway, but yeah, go watch 19, and then see what you think after 19. Then watch 20, and then let us know what you think, and then we'll get you on Blood versus Water. And there is some differences between then. It has kind of gotten a little bit more social mediaized, as all these other shows have. Unfortunately,
yes, crazy mad. Heroes versus Villains first.
Yes,
first. I would do Samoa, which is 19, then Heroes versus Villains, then Blood versus Water.
Yeah. Let's see. Can I do it on here? I can't. Oh, wait. Here we go. Let's see. Do this. Okay. 19. Oh, 19. 20. Then
Blood versus Water, which is TBD.
Yeah, which is TBD. We'll find out the name of that here soon. Okay, there we go. 19, 20, then Blood versus Water.
So real quick, I want to make sure that we get this down, because I know you got to go do your Walmart run.
Yep.
So week 1 we said Carla.
Carla is the girls.
Writing this down on the fly, and then we said Owen. So that was week 1. Who those are our picks, but I'm also going to say like those were our week 1 MVPs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So who is in the best position? Is that how we're going to categorize?
Yes. I don't. Okay. I'll be honest. I don't have someone from the women's side, just because we didn't really hear from very many women, and what we did hear was not in a good light. So I'm going to keep it at Carla for now. Okay. I don't have an alternative to that. And yes, by the way, crazy mad. Russell Hansen's brother was a terrible BB player. Russell Hansen's brother went on BB and Big Brother, and got spiraled so far out of control that they had to do a Brandon Hance level. You're leaving.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's also my favorite season of all time. Not because
Paramount
of that,
Plus.
I'll get it for you. We'll get you hooked up on that Dak Chats account. Anyway, yeah, terrible Big Brother player. But yeah, so, and you went first last time, so I'm going first this time, so I can get credit for my own. But I think it's obvious who I'm going to go with this week. I'm going with Jesse as my my guy MVP.
Okay. I very much I do think that you were copying me last week, so I very much appreciate that you went.
Yes, I wasn't copying you. We were just very similar. That's why I went first this week. I was like, I'm not getting that tag this week.
All right, so my guy, honestly, it's the guy who found the hidden immunity idol. I mean, you got to go
Cody.
with Livin. Like
Cody. All right.
Cody's in a very good spot, not because he's a good power player. He, in my opinion, is right now in the best position. He has the hidden immunity idol. He has a 3-2 advantage over his tribe because we saw at the very end, we saw next week on Survivor, Dwight and Jesse kind of have a little bit of a split up. We don't know if it's permanent, but you know what? We'll see that. So I'm going to go with Cody being in that power position, has a hidden immunity idol in his pocket and a 3-2 advantage on his tribe with NECA and Jesse. As far as the women,
I'm curious to see your take because I was like, I don't know that anyone stands out to me in a positive light this week.
The only person that really stuck out to me in a positive light was, and this is horrible, but I don't remember her name. It was the ADHD lady.
Ellie.
Ellie, yes. Okay,
Ellie.
so that's who I'm writing down. Is Ellie. And the reason I am is she's been the most vulnerable with the tribe. She's been able to make those genuine connections and things of that nature. We were talking a little bit before we started was, she's dyslexic and she's an ADHD. And between the two of us, we have all of those diseases.
Yeah. So you're the dyslexic. I'm the ADHD. So Ellie, and you know what? If I won't put her down on mine for the sake of not sounding like I'm copying, but I think that can kind of show what we're doing. I think that is a good. We'll kind of go with MVP. So not necessarily who's in the best position of the game overall, but the MVP, who we think the MVP of this week is. And we can break it down, guys versus girls, if we want to, or we can just do one total each. We'll have to decide overall the best way to do that. But I'll I know how you're doing it now, but I will think about that. I'm just put me down as a blank because I'm not going to say Ellie just for the sake of not going over the same person each time. But he's putting down Ellie for me. But anyway, that I will admit, her whole kind of art kind of slipped my mind at this late. I've been drinking too much Gentleman's Jack. That's fine. Anyway, but yeah, no, I think that'd be really fun to have just like a MVP at the end of each week. So yeah, for that. All right, guys. Last thing, Crazy Matt says Dylan needs BB in his life. You two have good chemistry. Well, we've only known each other for most of our lives, so
too long. How
old are you? You're 4 years older than me. You were 13 when I met you.
So solid. We're not gonna say how old I am. So we're just
No. Oh, everyone knows I'm 25. So
son of a.
It's already. I've already said that. So
well, actually,
I guess not everyone, but
I just had a birthday, so I'm actually 29. So
29.
Creeping up on the old 30.
Yep. So you have officially known me for over half your life. You poor thing. That's a lot. That's a long time to know me.
No wonder you need the old Jack.
Yeah.
Golly.
So anyway, but I think we're gonna end it there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like we've said once before, if you enjoyed the stream, like that video. If you're watching after the fact, like that video. And if you're just not finding us, hit that subscribe button because we're gonna be here. It's the start of the season. We're gonna be here all season, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. And it's not just gonna be Survivor that we cover. We also have been talking about some other stuff that we might potentially do in the future too. And when you look in the description down below, you'll see a link to Dylan's channel, Mike on the Mic. Go follow him because we'll also be doing stuff over there here soon as well. So make sure to subscribe on all of our channels. And then I tried to have it on here and I didn't get it up, but you can follow me on Dak Chats. That's where, if we have any channel updates, alterations to stream times or anything like that, that's where you get the updates, because I don't really have access to community tab right now. So once we get that, we'll put it there. But for now, follow me on Twitter. That's where you get all of our updates. And if for any reason you do want to support the stream, click that link down below for Buy Me a Coffee. That really helps us out, and go from there. But anything else you want to say tonight, Dylan?
No, great episode. Looking forward to next week. All right. Subscribe.
We'll try and trim it back a little bit. We ramble too much, but we'll try and trim it back a little bit.
We really do.
I told my wife only about an hour and 15 minutes. It was only a 2-hour episode, and we're almost.
I told her 40. I told mine 45. So we're
okay. Well, I'm not in. My doghouse is a little bit bigger tonight than yours. Yours is like a litter box.
Oh, so
anyway, we will end it there, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one, guys. Stay safe. See ya.